Hey, hi, and hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you're doing well. And it's time for some updated thoughts on the Mac Miller mixtape Faces. This thing dropped originally back in 2014. Now, with the passing of Mac Miller, the McCormick Family Trust has seen fit to formally release this project as, like a proper album where you can stream it on streaming platforms, which I think makes sense. I think this is a tasteful way of going about celebrating Mac Miller's legacy, putting stuff like this out that wasn't originally on streaming. It's certainly a lot better than just kind of like picking through the vault for, whatever we can cobble together, as we have often seen in the case of other artists who have, passed. Thankfully, Mac Miller has a very robust discography under him, quite a few mixtapes to boot as well. But Faces is easily the one, in my opinion, easily his best mixtape. And with this, formal reissue over here of Faces, I think that becomes just ever so clearer. And in some ways, Faces is even superior to the core albums Mac Miller was dropping around that time. I mean, certainly aesthetically and emotionally, we have a lot of overlap. There are a lot of parallels, the jazz influences, the psychedelic influences, the depressive emotions flowing throughout this project, movies with the sound off, Good AM as well. Faces is all of that, but maybe a little more unfiltered, honest, and just raw, because this thing being a mixtape, maybe there was less pressure for anything on it to be too commercial. There was certainly no hesitation in going the distance on this thing, as with the additional bonus track, this project now just reaches past 90 minutes. And of course, with this thing being a tape, Mac was free to do whatever he wanted to on the instrumental side, from samples to doing these spacey jazz adjacent jams with Thundercat. So yes, I'm really glad this thing has been dropped again. Since the reissue, I've been getting a lot of requests to give my thoughts on it. The project has grown on me over the years. I put it on my favorite 200 albums and mixtapes of the 2010s, but now with this new reissue, there's a bit more clarity to the way all of these tracks sound, and I'm enjoying it even a little more than I had when I put it on my list as a result. My first reaction to listening to Faces all over again, oddly enough, was that it feels like this project hasn't aged. This project feels, in a way, more present than it does past, which is funny because when I think about like core or very popular hit tracks from Mac's albums around that time, those do to me feel like they're coming from a certain place. I think about the way hip hop sounded around that time and some of the brain feeder influences seeping into his stuff. Faces to me feels like more representative of some of the slow, syrupy, more atmospheric and depressive abstract hip-hop that we're hearing now. And of course, there's other artists who got that snowball rolling. One of them is on this project, Earl Sweatshirt. And of course, there's ways in which Faces is very much a product of its time. A lot of the sour and very dramatic organ chords all over the project call back to a lot of those odd future beats that were so popular around this era of time. There are cultural and musical references in Mac's lyrics that feel like they could only be coming from this point in time as well. But it's still strange to go back and listen to this and think of Faces as coming from a point in time that was like pre-Travis Scott's Rodeo. And again, with this mixtape as proof, think about all of that gloomy, abstract hip-hop bubbling out of the underground right now, appearing on projects like, the recent Alchemist EPs. Like that sound, Mac Miller would have just fit so seamlessly into that. So again, in some ways, Faces doesn't feel like it's aged in the 7 years that it's been out. And sometimes songs on this thing are just downright predictive of some of the stuff we're hearing now. Now, of course, going through this massive track list, there are still plenty of highlights to be had, be it the super surreal and druggy Angel Dust or the dark and gritty Diablo. Still love the jazz pianos sampled throughout that track too. Of course, you have that haunting, spacious opener, Inside Outside, whose lyrics, very morbid lyrics at this point in time, given Mac's passing, just have so much more impact than they may have originally. But yet there are amazing bright spots on this thing as well, like Here We Go, and there's also the heart-wrenching and lovey-dovey and aspirational Wedding that's incredibly touching too. And man, that bonus track, it may just be one single additional bonus track, but like It's this heavy rock-influenced cut that just feels like emotionally and mentally a downward spiral, and it's just incredible as an epilogue for the project, and speaks to some incredibly intense and potent feelings of, again, depression. Mac is also referencing being suicidal on this project, too, his drug addictions. There's incredibly conceptual moments, too, narratively, like colors and shapes. This tape was a lot when it came out, and it's still very much a lot. So many layers, so many sounds, so many styles and influences and emotions flowing throughout all these tracks. It's consistently done and produced very well. Some of Mac's most compelling bars and verses ever. And the last thing I wanted to note that is something I absolutely love about this project is, again, even though it was a tape, and of course, with that, there's a lot of uncleared samples, and, it was slightly rougher around the edges than Mac's more, I guess, cleanly produced albums at the time. I love that, pretty much the magic of the project through some subtle tweaks, whatever needed to be approved in the process of putting this out. Everything was just left intact in terms of the appeal of Faces and what made Faces work. I'm happy this thing didn't need to get gutted in order for it to see a formal release. Yes, there have been like some intros and outros and movie and interview samples and quotes that have been cut from the beginnings and ends of moments on this thing. Though that Bill Murray clip, it just doesn't matter, that is still very much on Faces for sure. But again, the core musical elements of these tracks have been maintained very well. To my understanding, even the beat for Diablo most likely had to have been redone. And if that's in fact the case, that beat, again, core musical elements intact, still sounds great. So yes, in the process of retooling these beats or clearing samples or tweaking the sounds, tweaking the mixes, the general and original appeal of Faces still very much there. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts I think I want to share with you guys right now with this reissue. Faces, Mac Miller, his best mixtape. Hit up the comments and make sure to leave your thoughts on this reissue over here. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you have any new reflections on this thing now that it has been formally put out on streaming platforms? And yeah, let me know. Over here next to my head, another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Mac Miller, Faces, forever.